My job, in essence, is to persuade healthcare professionals about the benefits of our pharmaceuticals, hoping they choose our products for their patients. Hi, my name is Lester, and I am a 30-year-old medical sales representative. Despite my dedication, my performance in sales is far from stellar, and my boss, Mrs. Emily, never lets me forget it. Each month, as I submit my sales report, I brace for her inevitable critique. Lester, this is disappointing, she would begin, her voice sharp, each word a precise cut to my confidence. You know, we expect much better from you. I understood her point. After all, higher sales mean better business, but her constant disparagement made each day a struggle. Despite the criticism, I believed in a different approach. To me, it wasn't just about numbers, it was about trust, about ensuring that the medicines we sold were used correctly and truly benefited the patients. Unfortunately, this perspective was not shared by my boss, who seemed to believe that success was measured only in sales figures. This particular day was crucial. We were on the verge of sealing a $30 million deal that could significantly influence our company's standing. As I prepared for the day's negotiation, a call came through that unsettled me before I even reached the venue. I guess the $30 million deal is off, the client's representative hinted. My stomach dropped. This deal was not just about the company, it was about proving I could handle the pressure, that I was more than my last sales report. As I stood there, phone in hand, the weight of the moment bore down on me. The path ahead was uncertain, and Mrs. Emily's stern face flashed in my mind, her disappointment almost tangible. Yet, despite the odds, I knew giving up wasn't an option. I had to face this challenge head-on, no matter the outcome. The morning of the negotiation was tense. I arrived early, clutching the briefcase that contained all my notes and presentations. The client's office was imposing, a towering glass structure that seemed to scrutinize me as much as I feared being scrutinized inside. With every step towards the entrance, my thoughts raced. Could I salvage this deal? The outcome felt like it would define my career. I was greeted coolly by the client's representative, a sharp-dressed man who wasted no time in addressing the elephant in the room. About the $30 million deal, he began, his voice devoid of the warmth it carried during our previous conversations. There have been some concerns. His words hummed between us, heavy and ominous. Heart-sinking, I listened as he outlined several issues that had suddenly arisen, questioning our product's market fit and long-term viability. Each point felt like a personal critique, a direct hit to my competence and effort. It was clear that the deal was slipping through my fingers, and with it, possibly my job. The representative's next words were a lifeline I hadn't expected. We're willing to reconsider, he said, his eyes narrowing, but it depends on this meeting. Show us the value, Lester. Convince us. It was a challenge, stark and simple. I knew then that this was more than a sales pitch, it was a test of my resolve and my ability to stand by our products. Gathering every shred of determination, I opened my briefcase. It was do or die. As I laid out the documents, my hand steadied despite the turmoil inside. I realized that this was my moment to prove not just to my boss or the client, but to myself, that I was more than just numbers on a sales report. I was ready to fight for this deal, for my beliefs in our products and their benefit to patients. The negotiation awaited, and I was not going to back down. After a grueling day of negotiations, my mind was a whirlwind of numbers, objections, and strategies. The evening was setting in, and the streets were bathed in the orange glow of the setting sun as I opted for a shortcut home through a quieter, less traveled path. The need to clear my head and the desire to shorten the journey had me turning down an alley I seldom used. As I walked, the shadows grew longer and the alley darker. That's when I noticed her, a woman walking unsteadily ahead of me. She seemed to struggle with each step, her silhouette wavering against the dim light of the street lamps. My first instinct was to help, but I hesitated, unsure of how she would react to a stranger approaching her in such a secluded place. Before I could decide, the situation made the choice for me. The woman suddenly stumbled and fell forward. Driven by instinct, I rushed to her side, catching her just before she hit the ground. Her eyes briefly met mine, a flicker of confusion and fear passing through them before she lost consciousness. With no one else around to help, I quickly checked her pulse, steady, though weak. I knew I needed to get her medical attention fast. I lifted her as gently as I could and hurried to the main street, hoping to flag down a passing vehicle. Luck was on my side. An ambulance was nearby, responding to my frantic waves. As the paramedics took over, ensuring she was safe and on her way to the hospital, I stood back, a mix of adrenaline and concern washing over me. Who was she? Would she be all right? I had no answers, only a profound hope that she'd recover. Little did I know, our paths would cross again under very different circumstances. The morning of the meeting dawned bright and clear, a stark contrast to the turmoil churning within me. I arrived at the university hospital an hour early, determined to be fully prepared for the negotiations that could seal the fate of the $30 million deal. As I approached the reception, something felt amiss. The receptionist glanced at me with a peculiar mix of curiosity and unease, whispering into the phone while stealing furtive looks in my direction. I tried to calm my nerves, telling myself I was just overthinking the situation due to the stress of the pending deal. After a tense wait, I was ushered into a parlor room where the meeting would take place. My steps were heavy with anticipation. I needed this deal, not just for my company, but to prove my own worth. As the door swung open, I was met with a sight that knocked the breath from me. There, with a polite yet cool smile, stood the woman I had helped just the night before. My mind raced as I tried to connect the dots. How could she be involved in this deal? Had the encounter last night been a mere coincidence? Before I could gather my thoughts, her expression shifted. The warmth vanished, replaced by a stern look as she bluntly stated, "I guess the $30 million deal is off." Her words were a gut punch, leaving me reeling with confusion and a creeping dread that perhaps my act of kindness had somehow led to this disastrous turn. Stumbling over my words, I tried to understand where things had gone wrong. Had my intervention last night been misinterpreted? As I grappled with these thoughts, she continued, her tone softening as she began to explain the real reason behind her initial coldness. It was not my actions, but an email she had received from Mrs. Emily, filled with slander about my professionalism and intentions. The revelation was shocking, and as she spoke, the pieces of a much larger puzzle began to fall into place. This meeting was about more than just business. It was about integrity, trust, and the unexpected connections that can sometimes dictate our fates. As Miss Franklin explained, the email from Mrs. Emily had cast a shadow of doubt over my character and intentions. The words on the screen were harsh and unfounded, aimed at sabotaging not just the deal, but my entire career. Miss Franklin's initial hostility, it turned out, was a reaction to this deceit, not to anything I had done. Seeing the hurt and confusion on my face, Miss Franklin's expression softened. "I apologize for the misunderstanding," she said sincerely. "Your actions the other night showed me a side of you that contradicts everything in that email. I believe in giving people a chance to prove themselves." Heartened by her words, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was my opportunity to not only salvage the deal, but also to restore my tarnished reputation. We sat down across from each other, and I presented our products not just as items to be sold, but as solutions that genuinely benefited patients. I spoke of my belief in ethical sales and my commitment to ensuring that our medicines were used where they were truly needed. As our conversation progressed, Miss Franklin's demeanor changed from cautious to genuinely interested. She asked insightful questions, nodding thoughtfully as I explained the benefits and research behind each product. The atmosphere in the room shifted from tense to collaborative. By the end of our meeting, not only had we restored the original $30 million deal, but Miss Franklin also proposed an expansion based on the trust we had rebuilt. She saw value in a long-term partnership that could potentially bring even greater benefits to both our companies. As I left the hospital that day, the weight on my shoulders felt lighter. I had faced what seemed an insurmountable challenge and had come out not just intact, but stronger. This deal was a testament to my values and a vindication against the slander that had threatened to undermine me. The path ahead was still uncertain, but one thing was clear: integrity and sincerity were powerful allies, and today, they had proven their worth unequivocally. The aftermath of the successful negotiation was immediate and profound. News of the $80 million deal spread through the company like wildfire, altering perceptions and expectations of me overnight. Where once there were doubts and dismissive glances, now there was a palpable respect and a hint of awe. Mrs. Emily's attempt to undermine me backfired spectacularly. Armed with the evidence from the damning email she had sent to Miss Franklin, I approached our company's CEO. The proof was undeniable and her actions indefensible. Mrs. Emily was promptly dismissed for her unethical behavior, sending a clear message throughout the company about the value of integrity over cutthroat tactics. In the wake of these events, my relationship with Miss Franklin grew stronger. What began as a professional respect transformed into a deep, personal connection. Our meetings became more frequent, not just to discuss business, but to share our thoughts on innovation, ethics, and the future of healthcare. As we collaborated, our bond deepened, and it wasn't long before our professional meetings turned into personal dates. What I admired most about Miss Franklin was her intelligence and her passion for making a real difference in the world, qualities that resonated with my own aspirations. Together, we were not just partners in business but in life, each strengthening the other. The deal had not only secured my professional future but had also unexpectedly led me to find a partner who shared my values and vision. As we planned for the future, both for our companies and ourselves, I knew that this was just the beginning of a new and promising chapter in our lives. One evening, as Miss Franklin and I enjoyed a quiet dinner at a cozy Italian restaurant, a chance encounter brought an unexpected twist to our night. As we were about to leave, I spotted my cousin and her boyfriend exiting the same restaurant. Our paths crossed, and introductions were made amidst light laughter and curious glances. My cousin, always quick with a jest, teased, "Lester, it seems you finally met someone who can match your legendary niceness." Her playful tone was light, but her words carried a note of genuine surprise and happiness for me. Miss Franklin, unfazed and with a warm smile, responded, "That's exactly what I admire about him. His kindness isn't just an act, it's who he is, and it's what drew me to him in the first place." Her words, spoken so sincerely and openly, filled me with a sense of pride and affirmation. As we said our goodbyes and walked away, my cousin's teasing remark lingered in my mind, reinforcing the importance of staying true to one's values. The recognition of my character by those closest to me and by Miss Franklin, who had come to know me under such extraordinary circumstances, was profoundly gratifying. As Miss Franklin and I strolled under the starlit sky, our hands intertwined, I felt a deep sense of contentment and security. The trials that had once seemed insurmountable had led to this moment of simple, perfect happiness. It was a reminder that integrity and compassion, in life as in business, are virtues that truly endure and are worth protecting. This evening, which had started as just another dinner date, had turned into a reaffirmation of our relationship and the values we shared. It underscored a fundamental truth that had guided me through my toughest challenges: being true to oneself is the greatest measure of success.